Let me tell you something that might shift your entire dynamic with people who drain you. Most toxic people don't walk into your life with a label. They show up wrapped in charm, maybe with shared history, maybe with promises, but underneath it all, they're feeding off one thing: your reaction. See, here's the shift. You don't need to fight them, confront them, or fix them. You just need to stop fueling them. That's the shift. One powerful shift. We think silence means weakness. We think calm means passivity. But no, calm is control. Silence is strength. And the moment you stop engaging, they start to shrink. Not because you became mean, but because you became untouchable. Here's what happens when you stop explaining yourself. People who were never listening in the first place get confused. They push harder, but if you hold steady, they retreat. They only knew how to play the game when you were still on the field. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. You're not rude, you're resolved. And the more you respect your own peace, the less comfortable they are in your space. Start answering with less. Start pausing before responding. Start asking yourself, does this require my energy or just my silence? And then you do the hardest, most powerful thing. You stay calm when they expect you to crack. That's when everything changes. That's when they lose their grip. That's when the access starts to close, not by force, but by frequency. Clarity is power. That's not just a feel-good quote. It's a fundamental truth when it comes to dealing with toxic people. The clearer you are about what you accept, what you allow, and what you absolutely won't tolerate, the more powerful your presence becomes. Toxic people thrive in confusion. They manipulate in the gray areas. They test boundaries that haven't been spoken. But when you get clear, really clear on who you are and what your standards are, something shifts. You become harder to manipulate. You become less reactive. You stop being a soft target. Most of us get caught in the cycle of over-explaining, defending, and justifying. But what if you didn't need to? What if your silence, your calm no, your firm pause spoke louder than any argument? That's a level of clarity I'm talking about. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's grounded, it's peaceful, but it's firm. And when people sense that energy, they realize this is not someone I can mess with. You don't even need to say, I don't tolerate disrespect. You just stop giving energy to disrespectful behavior. You don't have to announce your boundaries. You live them. Your actions start making quiet statements. You stop picking up calls that drain you. You stop responding to guilt-tripping texts. You stop allowing access to people who treat your presence like it's optional. And when you do this consistently, without drama or explanation, toxic people start to feel uncomfortable. Not because you attacked them, but because they no longer have the tools to manipulate you. Clarity brings simplicity. You no longer need to debate internally whether someone's behavior is okay or if you're being too sensitive. You've already decided, this is my line. Once you've made that decision, you stop negotiating your peace. You stop shrinking to fit someone else's comfort zone. You stop molding yourself around someone's dysfunction just to avoid conflict. Clarity says, I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. Toxic people don't need a big dramatic exit to leave your life. They just need to realize you're no longer playing the role they cast you in. And that happens when you become someone who lives by their values without trying to convince anyone else to agree. You don't chase validation. You don't explain your worth. You just walk it daily. That kind of clarity, it's intimidating to someone who feeds off your confusion. So ask yourself, where am I unclear in my life? Where have I been vague about what I allow? Who benefits from my indecision? And more importantly, who would leave if I finally stood firm in what I actually believe? Because here's the truth. When you become clear, the people who thrive in chaos will feel the shift. They'll either adapt or they'll exit. And either way, you win. Stop explaining yourself. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's one of the most powerful things you can do when dealing with toxic people. Why? Because every time you over-explain your choices, your boundaries, your feelings, you hand over control. You're not just sharing, you're seeking approval, validation, or permission. And toxic people feed on that. They exploit it. They twist your words, poke holes in your reasoning, and make you feel like you need to justify your very existence. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. We grow up thinking that politeness means explaining ourselves, that in order to be respectful, we have to give someone a reason for why we said no, why we walked away, or why we're setting a boundary. But respect doesn't require explanation. Clarity does. And sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and others is to say less. When you stop explaining, you start reclaiming your space. You step into your authority. You become someone who doesn't need to be understood to feel secure. Toxic people don't want your explanation because they care. They want it so they can use it. The more you explain, the more material they have to twist, to argue, to guilt you into changing your mind. They'll question your tone, your timing, your logic, until suddenly you're the one apologizing for simply having a boundary in the first place. And that's where they want you, uncertain, confused, and on the defensive. But what happens when you don't explain? When you just say, no, that doesn't work for me, and let it hang in the air. At first, they'll push harder. They'll press you. Why not? What did I do? Are you serious? And that's the test. Because your silence, your refusal to elaborate, creates a power shift. You're no longer playing by their rules. You're setting your own. And they don't know what to do with that. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be cold. But you can be clear. You can say, that's a decision I've made, or I'm not going to explain this further, and leave it there. And the more you do this, the stronger you get. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You trust your instincts and you act on them without apology. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes from knowing you don't have to prove anything to anyone. It makes you unshakable, and it sends a loud message to toxic people. Access to your energy is a privilege, not a guarantee. If they want explanations, they can go find someone who still thinks they owe them. Because you've moved on from that. At some point you realize that your peace matters more than their approval. And when that clicks, when you finally stop explaining yourself, you don't lose control, you take it back. Neutral energy is the new boundary. Calm is your weapon. Silence is your shield. That might not sound as satisfying as snapping back, clapping back, or going off on someone who pushes you. But here's the reality. Toxic people don't respond to logic. They respond to energy. And the moment you give them yours, they win. They don't need you to agree with them. They just need you to react. That's how they stay relevant in your life. Neutral energy is not about being passive. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's about standing so firmly in your peace that their chaos doesn't move you. You stop being bait. You stop being emotionally available for manipulation. You show up calm, collected, and clear, and that makes you untouchable. Toxic people don't know how to function when they're not pulling strings. When you stay neutral, you stop giving them buttons to push. Calm energy is strong energy. It says, I'm aware of what's happening, and I'm not going to play your game. It's the deep breath before the storm that never comes. It's the look that says, I see you, but I'm not entertaining this. When you stop rising to every comment, defending every choice, or matching their intensity, they lose their grip. You rob them of the thing they're really after: control. Silence, too, is power. Silence doesn't mean you're afraid. It means you're done. It means the conversation is over. It means you've said what needed to be said, either directly or through your actions, and now you're not giving it more oxygen. Toxic people try to draw you into their drama like it's a fire, but when you stop fanning the flames, it dies out. Eventually, they have no choice but to turn their attention elsewhere. Neutral doesn't mean numb. You can feel frustration, anger, hurt, but you don't have to show it to them. You channel it inward. You stay composed, and in doing so, you keep your dignity intact. You teach people how to treat you, not by what you say, but by what you don't engage in. By refusing to fight where there's no peace to be made. This kind of boundary isn't loud. It's not about ultimatums or dramatic exits. It's about a subtle shift in energy that says, you don't get to disturb me anymore. And once you make that shift, toxic people either adapt to your calm or disappear from your space entirely, because their survival depends on your reaction. Remove the reaction, and you remove their power. You can't control who walks into your life, but you can absolutely control how much energy they're allowed to take from it. Calm is your line. Silence is your answer. And when you choose both, you don't just create boundaries, you become one. And the best part? You don't have to yell. You don't have to explain. You don't have to prove anything. You just let your peace speak for itself. And that's when they realize they no longer have access. Respond, don't react. It sounds like a subtle difference, but in the presence of toxic people, it's everything. Toxic people are emotional pickpockets. They steal your peace in the heat of your reaction. They bait you with comments, lies, disrespect. Then step back and enjoy the chaos they caused. But when you stop reacting and start responding with intention, their entire strategy falls apart. Reactions are impulsive, they're emotional outbursts rooted in the need to defend, prove, or protect yourself in the moment. And that's exactly what toxic people want, to see you lose your center, to pull you into their emotional storm. Because the louder you get, the more control you give them. You start fighting on their turf at their pace, and suddenly you're drained, angry, and wondering how they pulled you in again. But a response is calm. A response is thoughtful. A response is a choice. It's the pause between what they do and what you allow yourself to do in return. And that pause, that's where your power lives. It's where you decide whether this situation deserves your voice or your silence, whether the person standing in front of you has earned your energy or is just demanding it. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is strategy. When you choose stillness, you deny them the satisfaction of controlling your emotions. You become unpredictable. You start holding your emotional ground. And toxic people can't play a game when you stop following their rules. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about mastering them. When you feel the urge to snap back, pause. When you feel the need to defend yourself to someone who isn't listening, pause. Ask yourself, do I need to say this, or do I just want to be heard by someone who doesn't care? That question alone can save you hours of emotional exhaustion. Responding means being intentional with your words, your body language, your energy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you've outgrown pointless battles. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every disrespectful comment needs a clap back. Sometimes your silence is the loudest message of all. You no longer move me. And when you carry that energy, when you stop rising to every provocation, something incredible happens. You start to feel peace. Not the fake kind that comes from avoiding people, but real peace. The kind that comes from choosing how you show up regardless of how others do. That's the shift. That's the moment toxic people begin to lose their hold. Because you're no longer feeding them. You're no longer dancing to their tune. You've become still, deliberate, grounded. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them try. Because at the end of the day, they can only work with what you give them. And when you stop reacting, they starve. Your peace isn't just protection, it's power. Redefine access. That's not about being cold or distant, it's about being intentional. Just because someone wants your energy, your time, or your attention doesn't automatically mean they deserve it. Too often we hand out emotional access like free samples. Anyone can get a piece of our time, our thoughts, our energy, even people who consistently disrespect us, drain us, or take us for granted. But access is a privilege, not a right. And at some point you have to stop letting people into spaces in your life they've proven they can't handle. We all have those people, friends, family members, co-workers, who seem to feel entitled to our availability. They expect instant replies, unlimited emotional labor, constant validation, and when you pull back, they act like you're the problem. But the truth is, many people aren't mad because you set a boundary. They're mad because they can no longer use you the way they used to. And when you begin to redefine access, you see it clearly. Not everyone deserves front row seats in your life. You start realizing that emotional availability is not the same as emotional responsibility. You are not responsible for managing other people's insecurities, fixing their patterns, or soothing their chaos, especially if they're unwilling to change. Redefining access means shifting the focus from how much someone wants you around to whether they've earned the space they're asking for. Have they shown respect? Have they honored your boundaries? Do they uplift or drain you? Those are the real questions. And when you operate from a place of self-worth, you become a better gatekeeper. You don't allow guilt to decide who gets your energy. You don't confuse proximity with value. Just because someone's been in your life for years doesn't mean they still belong in your inner circle. Growth will always reveal who's aligned with your peace and who's not. And you don't have to make a dramatic exit. Sometimes redefining access is quiet. It's replying slower, saying no more often, not oversharing with people who only want information, not connection. It's detaching emotionally while still being respectful. You can care about people without giving them unrestricted access to your life. When people show you that they mishandle your vulnerability, your time, your peace, you believe them. You don't argue with their behavior, you adjust your availability. And the ones who truly respect you, they'll understand. The ones who only value their access to your energy, they'll guilt, manipulate, or disappear. And either way, it's clarity. Not everyone deserves to know the details of your day. Not everyone deserves a callback. Not everyone deserves to be close to you just because they want to be. Access is earned through consistency, respect, and care, not demand. So take inventory. Who are you letting into spaces they've never respected? Who drains you but still gets a reply? Who's had VIP access to your life even though they bring nothing but chaos? It's not about being cruel, it's about being clear. Your energy is sacred, and not everyone gets a seat at your table anymore. Walk like you've already left. That doesn't mean ghosting people. It doesn't mean becoming cold or cutting everyone off. It means showing up with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they can walk away at any moment and will if they have to. That kind of energy changes everything. It shifts the tone of every conversation. Because when you're no longer emotionally tied to the outcome, you stop playing the game toxic people rely on to control you. Toxic people sense attachment like radar. They can feel when you're still hoping to be understood, still trying to fix things, still needing closure or validation. That's the opening they use. They'll keep you stuck in cycles of confusion, guilt, and emotional highs and lows, not because they care, but because they know you do. But when you walk like you've already left, that door in your mind has already closed. You're not begging, you're not chasing, you're not proving anything. You're calm, centered, and already moving on, internally, even if not yet physically. That energy is powerful because it's not rooted in drama. It's not reactive. It's rooted in clarity. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. You know what you're not going to accept anymore. And your tone reflects that. There's no yelling, no emotional bargaining, no desperate explanations. Just calm, clean detachment. You say what needs to be said, and you let the silence speak for the rest. People notice when you shift like that. They feel it. Conversations that used to end in chaos start ending quickly. Manipulative tactics that once worked begin to fall flat. Your no becomes final. Your lack of emotional response becomes unsettling to someone who once thrived on your reactions. Because you're not doing the dance anymore. You're not swinging between anger and forgiveness, disappointment and hope. You've stepped off the ride. And the best part? You don't have to announce it. You don't have to say, I'm done or I'm leaving. You just start moving like someone who could and would walk away in peace, not pieces. That makes you unreadable to someone who once knew how to trigger you. You've changed the script. They can still talk, but you're not listening the same way. They can still argue, but you're not playing along. This kind of detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you love yourself enough to leave what hurts you. It means your peace matters more than the potential of being heard by someone who's never really listened. It's not easy, but it's freeing. Walk like you've already left. Let that energy lead your decisions, your boundaries, your tone. Because when someone realizes they no longer have emotional power over you, they either change how they treat you or they remove themselves. And either way, you win. At the end of the day, protecting your peace doesn't require confrontation, it requires clarity. One powerful shift in your mindset, your energy, and your behavior is often all it takes to make toxic people back away. You don't have to argue, prove, or explain. You just have to become someone who no longer responds to chaos with chaos. When you stop explaining yourself, when you start responding instead of reacting,